Hey everyone, it's Saoirse. It feels like it's been a really long time. I have been actually working on my dissertation a little bit, but today I wanted to take a break and talk to you about a book that I really, really loved and read every single day until I was finished, like very focused, more focused than I normally am with reading. And this might come as a surprise, but it's The Body by Bill Bryson. Only Bill Bryson could get me to read a 400-page science book. I mean, I am truly blown away by that. You know that I love him and that I think, that he's my favorite nonfiction writer, travel writer, all that. He just makes everything really funny and relatable and interesting. And even when it was like really dry facts and it wasn't, like funny at all, because there's a lot about the body that's not funny, I was still very much enjoying it. So yeah, this is a guide for occupants. It is everything that you would want to know about what is going on inside of this meat sack that we live in. It is truly shocking, a lot of it. And I enjoyed it immensely. So I want to share a few things from it, more than a few, because I'm just obsessed with this book. I already want to read it again. And there's so many like anecdotes and just fun little things that he puts in here. He interviewed a lot of people that have like really interesting stories, but I'll just pick out some of the things that will make sense if you haven't read the whole thing. And it's all set up like chapter by chapter. Here's the contents: how to build a human at the beginning, and then you go all the way to the end. So it's got, skin and hair, the brain, the head, the immune system, sleep, into the nether regions, and so on and so forth. It's wonderful. It's also got photos. There are 2 sections of photos in here, and some of them are very shocking. Well, here's like a bunch of safety pins that somebody swallowed. Incredible stuff. Okay, let's get started. All of the components of the genome have one single-minded purpose: to keep the line of your existence going. It's a slightly humbling thought that the genes you carry are immensely ancient and possibly, so far anyway, eternal. You will die and fade away, but your genes will go on so long as you and your descendants continue to produce offspring. And it is surely astounding to reflect that not once in the 3 billion years since life began has your personal line of descent been broken. For you to be here now, every one of your ancestors had to successfully pass on its genetic material to a new generation before being snuffed out or otherwise sidetracked from the procreative process. That's quite a chain of success. It really is so fascinating. I read this thing once, many years ago in school, and I can't remember who wrote it, but there was this quote: "You are the result of the love of thousands." Not always love, but like, basically, it's pretty amazing how many people had to exist for you to be here. Hello, kitty. Hello. How do we celebrate the glory of our existence? Well, for most of us, by exercising minimally and eating maximally. Think of all the junk you throw down your throat and how much of your life is spent sprawled in a near vegetative state in front of a glowing screen. True. And this book, I have to say, really inspired me to work out even more than I already do. I mean, since I started reading it, now I go on a 5-mile walk every single day. Minimum. Like, sometimes I run, sometimes I walk farther, but I make sure to cover those 5 miles. And I've been absolutely loving it. Thriving on it. Highly recommend. This is so fascinating. We have only thermal sensors to guide us, which is why when you sit down on a wet spot, you can't generally tell whether it really is wet or just cold. That happens all the time, doesn't it? When you like touch a seat and you're like, I don't know if that's wet. It could just be cold. It's so silly. No one has ever come close to explaining why our fingers wrinkle when we have long baths. The explanation most often given is that wrinkling helps them to drain water better and improves grip. But that doesn't really make a great deal of sense. Surely the people who most urgently need a good grip are those who have just fallen in water, not those who have been in it for some time. I love that. There's an example of his dry humor. Oh, now the cat is on my lap, so excuse me for a moment. Okay, so there's also a lot in here about viruses, and truly it feels prophetic, this book, because it was published, I forgot to say, in 2019. It just came out last year, and oh, if he had just waited a year, the chapter that he could have included. Yeah. And there's also a bit about antibiotics and how we are developing a resistance to them because we use them so much. And I know personally, whenever I get like a cold or something, the doctor's like, here's antibiotics, you know, here's a course of that. And sometimes now lately I've like stopped taking it if I think I can get through it without it, because I'm really freaked out, you know, by what he says in here about how we could get to the point where we can't defend ourselves against things anymore because we've grown so used to the antibiotics. Kind of freaky. Not that they're a bad thing, I mean, they're wonderful, but yeah, science is wild. The amygdala, Greek for almond, specializes in handling intense and stressful emotions, fear, anger, anxiety, phobias of all types. People whose amygdalae are destroyed are left literally fearless and often cannot even recognize fear in others. The amygdala grows particularly lively when we are asleep, and thus may account for why our dreams are so often disturbing. Your nightmares may be simply the amygdalae unburdening themselves. I hope that explains it, because man, my dreams are just whack. I can't, sometimes I just, like, I wake up and I'm affected by those dreams all day. They're so bad. Send me some good dreams, that would be awesome. Researchers also sometimes find it useful to distinguish between recall memory, which is what you can remember spontaneously, the kinds of things you know when you do a general knowledge quiz, and recognition memory, which is where you are a bit hazy on the substance but can recall the context. Recognition memory explains why so many of us struggle to remember the contents of a book, but can often recall where we read the book, the color or design of the cover, and other seeming irrelevancies. That is so interesting to me. The stuff on memory here is really very cool. I'm so interested in how that works. You're gonna hear me say, like, this is so interesting a lot. And I can't help it, because, like, I was glued to this book. It's just, my brain was like, yes, let me understand all these things that are going on that I should know about. It's like, this is all happening in me. It's crazy. Most mysterious of all is the chin. The chin is unique to humans and no one knows why we have one. It doesn't seem to confer any structural benefit to the head, so it may be simply that we find a good chin dashing. Gorgeous. Gorgeous prose. So at this point, Bryson is interviewing somebody who's taken him to a room where they have people who have donated their bodies to science, so medical students can dissect them and look at them. I'm frankly amazed. So that's the heart, I say, indicating the shapeless lump beside it. Ben nods. And the liver, pancreas, kidney, spleen, he says, pointing out the other organs of the abdomen in turn, sometimes nudging one aside to expose another beneath or behind it. They are not fixed and hard like the plastic teaching models, but move about easily. I am vaguely reminded of water balloons. There is a lot of other stuff in there, too. Threaded blood vessels and nerves and tendons and lots of intestines, all of it just kind of tipped in as if this poor, anonymous former person had had to pack himself in a hurry. It was impossible to visualize how any of this disordered interior could ever have conducted the tasks that would allow the very inert body before us to sit up and think and laugh and live. Oh, the difference between a live body and a dead body, I tell you what. Not that I've seen that many. You know, never mind. I found this really interesting when he's talking about the place where they're dissecting these bodies, that when they're done with them, they're generally not kept for more than 3 years before being sent for cremation. That members of staff and medical students often go to the cremation ceremonies, and they really, like, pay respect to these people. And that made me cry. I laughed in this book, I cried, I gasped. I mean, there's just so much in here. Something for everyone. Oh, this is just great. I mean, it's so sad, but this doctor says, is this a doctor? A doctor, yes. British surgeon and anatomist. Sir Astley Cooper liked to quip, "We enter the world through the pelvis and leave it through the hip." Meaning that after a broken hip, if you're over 75, 40% of people are no longer able to care for themselves. 10% die within 30 days, and nearly 30% die within 12 months. Oh, it's so sad. It's crazy how breakable you become as you get older. And this book really helped explain why that is. Since our ancestors had to survive lean times as well as good, they evolved a tendency to store fat as a fuel reserve, a survival reflex that is now all too often killing us. The upshot is that millions of us spend our lives struggling to maintain a balance between Paleolithically designed bodies and modern gustatory excess. It's a battle too many of us are losing. Yeah, as I said, this book really inspired me to work out more and eat even better than I was. Because I am pretty health conscious, but I do enjoy a treat. We could reduce our energy needs considerably if we elected to be cold-blooded. A typical mammal uses about 30 times as much energy in a day as a typical reptile, which means that we must eat every day what a crocodile needs in a month. What we get from this is an ability to leap out of bed in the morning rather than having to bask on a rock until the sun warms us, and to move about at night or in cold weather, and just to be generally more energetic and responsive than our reptilian counterparts. I loved that. Having to bask on a rock until the sun warms us, can you imagine? It sounds alright. But no, I'm glad that I am capable of energy. You might notice I'm a bit sunburned today, because I was out in the Pentlands, walking/running 10 miles/swimming in the lake, and it was so stunning. So yay, energy is good. Although I'm pretty exhausted now, and I still need to write 1,000 words for my dissertation. Let's see. Ooh, we're in the lungs and breathing. Why do I want to read this? Oh yeah, this is so interesting. The reason your nose runs in chilly weather is the same reason your bathroom windows run with water in chilly weather. In the case of your nose, warm air from your lungs meets cold air coming into the nostrils and condenses, resulting in a drip. That is for all of you like me out there who have always wondered, why does my nose run when it's cold? It is so gross, it's so embarrassing. It's like I just walked 2 miles, from my flat to school, and my nose is just pouring bleh. And I swear I'm not sick. Well, there you go. That's why it happens. I was so glad to read that. Oh, we are just flying. This is the sleep chapter. Being chased by zombies or finding yourself unaccountably naked at a bus stop doesn't seem on the face of it a terribly restorative way to while away the hours of darkness. Amen. I will say it again. I am so sick of having these nightmares. I have what I call adventure nightmares because they are wild. I am running, I'm chasing, I am, just jumping over things. There are terrible, terrible things happening, and I have to escape from them. And I don't want to have these adventures at night. I mean, damn, just let me sleep. For one night, I just want to sleep. Or have a very nice dream, like I'm flying or something. Please. I'm over the crazy, crazy nightmares. Ooh, this is scary. Alarmingly, when a dozen airline pilots on long-haul flights were studied by sleep scientists, almost all were found to have been asleep or all but asleep at various times during the flight without realizing it. I already hate flying, so that makes me feel better. Springer is scratching his scratching board right now. That is that sound. The relationship between the sleeping person and the outside world is often a curious one. Most of us have experienced that abrupt feeling of falling while asleep, known as a hypnic or myoclonic jerk. No one knows why we have these. One theory is that it goes back to the days when we slept in trees and had to take care not to fall off. That is just the most like wholesome, pure little fact. We used to sleep in trees, and now our bodies are still like adjusted to that so we don't fall off our bed. I really like that theory. That's my favorite. I hope that's the truth. Oh. Yes. Sorry, my notes are extensive for this. Ooh. This one gets me. Okay. When a teenager struggles to get up in the morning, that isn't laziness, it's biology. Matters are compounded in America by what a New York Times editorial called a dangerous tradition, starting high schools abnormally early. According to the Times, 86% of U.S. high schools start their day before 8:30 in the morning and 10% start before 7:30. Later times have been shown to produce better attendance, better test results, fewer car accidents, and even less depression and self-harm. My high school started at 7:05 in the morning. Okay, so add in the bus. I had to get up at 5 on the dot if I wanted to make it to school. Get to the bus, get to school, 5 in the morning, okay? I was not doing so hot. I was falling asleep in class. It didn't matter what I did, how much sleep I got before. It's not healthy to start high schools that early, to start any school that early. I'm sorry, I know it means you have more time after school for your activities, but guess what? You're going to be dead by then. It's just common sense. It was absolute torture starting that early. As if high school wasn't bad enough. What chapter are we going to now? Ooh, we're moving past another section of photos, which are so interesting. I'm just enjoying them. I won't show you. Oh. The problem with human childbirth is cephalopelvic disproportion. In simple terms, a baby's head is too big for smooth passage through the birth canal, as any mother will freely attest. The average woman's birth canal is about an inch narrower than the width of the average newborn's head, making it the most painful inch in nature. To squeeze through this constricted space, the baby must execute an almost absurdly challenging 90-degree turn as it proceeds through the pelvis. If ever there is an event that challenges the concept of intelligent design, it is the act of childbirth. No woman, however devout, has ever in childbirth said, "Thank you, Lord, for thinking this through for me." I love that. Just wonderful. There's like a fly in here or something. It's so hot now that I have to have the windows cracked. And these bugs, man. Okay. Oh yes, this is very sad. It has been suggested that children growing up today will be the first in modern history to live shorter, less healthy lives than those of their parents. We aren't just eating ourselves into early graves, it seems, but breeding children to jump in alongside us. Very, very alarming idea there. Oh, okay. This is where we're talking about viruses, epidemics, diseases. Whether or not a disease becomes epidemic is dependent on 4 factors: how lethal it is, how good it is at finding new victims, how easy or difficult it is to contain, and how susceptible it is to vaccines. Most really scary diseases are not actually very good at all 4. A successful virus is one that doesn't kill too well and can circulate widely. That's what makes flu such a perennial threat. Ugh. It says on several occasions, thanks to air travel, what is this fire? Oh, Ebola. It escaped to other countries, though fortunately in each instance it was contained. We may not always be so lucky. Super scary. We are really no better prepared for a bad outbreak today than we were when Spanish flu killed tens of millions of people 100 years ago. The reason we haven't had another experience like that isn't because we have been especially vigilant, it's because we have been lucky. you guys doing in lockdown? Are you coming out of lockdown? I think we're in like phase 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know what. We're in some phase here in Scotland where you can now like order a coffee. Like one person can go into a shop at a time and then get out, and there's no like sitting down or anything. Yeah. And the zoo is opening soon. And hopefully the botanic gardens will open. I can't believe I missed spring there. So, all the flowers. Okay, last one. And this is from the end. And I love all the little illustrations in here. And it says, eat sensibly, exercise regularly, die anyway. That's a quote from Anonymous. In 2011, an interesting milestone in human history was passed. For the first time, more people globally died from non-communicable diseases like heart failure, stroke, and diabetes than from all infectious diseases combined. We live in an age in which we are killed more often than not by lifestyle. We are in effect choosing how we shall die, albeit without much reflection or insight. I'll leave it at that. Absolutely love this. Highly recommend. Hopefully it's all, factually sound. The massive section at the end is notes on sources and then a whole bibliography. And then you get an index too if you want to just skip around to things you're interested in. So a lot in there. And I got this for half price at Waterstones. What? And it was new. Crazy. So I'm already like really wanting to read the other Bill Bryson book that I have here, which is Made in America, and that's it's about the English language, I think, and how it like changed in America. So a lot of reading to do, a lot of writing to do. Should be writing, but here we are. I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to read 50 pages a day, write 500 words a day, walk 5 miles a day, and drink 2 liters of water every day. And so far, I have managed the 2 liters of water every day. And pretty much the walking. And I have almost managed the reading every day. I have not managed the writing every day. That should probably not be the thing that I'm shirking, but yeah, I really gotta get on that because it's actually due pretty soon and kind of a big deal. So, with that in mind, I will see you all next time. Stay safe. And tell me what you're up to. What are you reading? See ya.